Like, you have no idea how many how many gyms I've DM'd being like, hey, like, check out this product out. Hey, and reach out to a bunch of influencers. Hey, like, I'll send you a free box if you post about it. Like, so many people. I'm a psycho. Like, I will write down a list of like 100 gyms and DM every single one of them that day until I get to the bottom of my list.
It's funny that you say that, because I had that conversation with my partner the other day. He was like, it's so funny when you watch an interaction, somebody says no to you, you just move on. I'm like, yeah, because it was a no anyways.
Yep.
If I didn't have the interaction.
Yeah.
So I might as well ask and then just move on to the next person, because it's a no anyways.
If I hear back from 3, I'm pumped. You know what I mean? It's just, and you can't get discouraged at that. You're like, great, I heard from 3, let's go. Like, let's see where this can go.
Hi, I'm Lauren Parsons.
And I'm Andy Jackson, and this is the All Well Co podcast.
Dive deep with us as leading experts share their unique perspectives on topics such as recovery, sleep, movement, and the latest innovations in the space.
Welcome, Iris and Emily, to the All Well Co podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you both on here. I actually just thought it was useful for you to share your story about how did you get involved with us and All Well Network? And, you know, whoever wants to go first, just really would love to hear how you got involved with us.
Iris, you can go ahead.
Thank you. So actually, thank you for having me first and foremost. But I got involved through Andy. I remember, I think at this point, it's like 4 or 5 years ago, you reached out and it was just chatting back and forth. And that's when I was still with Movement Flow at the time. We were doing like collaborations in the sense of like getting Vivo involved and spreading the movement and things like that. So it was really cool to always be in contact for the last years. And it's always something related to how to get better, how to mentally and physically improve, as well as just spreading the word of how can we even dress ourselves to succeed. So it was a big thing with Vivo at the time, because it was exploding in Canada. And that's, I think, how we mainly got in touch, is like how to get at that on everybody instead of like a big platform feed where you're not really connected to how you're walking. And that's like the fundamental of how you're moving. So yeah, thank you.
Great. What about you, Emily?
From what I remember, it was actually like from my New York days. Andy and I, like, I don't know if you reached out to me, if I reached out to you. I believed you were with was it Dick's Sporting Goods, or what was it? It was another company at the time, but you had sent me like a lot of like really cool stuff, like shoes or like just equipment, and yeah, and then we just kept in contact since then. And you have always been such like a genuine person, and you always kind of like I could tell just wanted to like reach out and like help others and just really build like a really dope community because of just like how much you followed up and cared to check in and just always like supported me and like cheered me on Instagram. And we're just always like, I just love that about you, because some people like are not like that, obviously. So I just got the best vibes from you. And then when you said that you created this community, I was like, okay, I obviously have to tap into that. And yeah, it's been really, really cool. I love it. I actually share a lot of this stuff with a lot of friends of mine. Obviously Vivo Barefoot has become huge. Like, the top trainers that I know and have looked up to and respect all wear the Vivo Barefoot shoes. And it just like so cool. Cause I feel like I remember when you like kind of like were just got a part of that. So it was really cool to like see you grow and like watch the brand grow with you. So I just like what you've been a part of and what you've been able to do. And you've been in the fitness industry for a long time. So yeah, I'm happy to be a part of the community.
Well, that's very kind of you to say, but you know, I'm only as good as Lauren here. Without Lauren, I wouldn't be doing anything. So Emily, what about you then? So if you were picking one thing about the network for you as a professional, what's been the most useful aspect for you?
Honestly, the insight you've given me, to be honest with you, like that is like the number one thing that I've gotten, is just the connections through others. I think, like I said, just the connections in the community. I think that is the number one thing, which is incredibly valuable because most things offer a product, and you guys obviously offer a product, but I think you really harp on the whole community thing more, and I love how you guys emphasize with that. So I think that's what really attracts me to you guys. Yeah.
Thank you. And Iris, what about you? What's the one aspect of the network that's useful for you?
I think it's a constant connection. Like Emily just said, it's the constant touch points. It's literally on a weekly basis, if not every second day. So it's been really nice to not only make it about a product. It never really has been. It's always been like, hey, how are you actually? Like, what are you doing? how's the community doing? How's everybody else? What can I do to support you, and vice versa? So it's been always that, how can I help and how can we help each other, that I love the most, instead of it being about something external. It's always the human touch. So I really enjoy that, and I always appreciate that.
Thank you. I don't know that we've ever asked anybody that question.
I would know that we have.
Yeah, so it's really cool to hear that your responses are what our aim is, and I love that. Thank you. Before we get into your businesses, I'd love to hear about more of your personal backgrounds a bit. So where did you grow up, and how did that influence where you are today? And Iris, you can go first.
So I'm actually born and raised in Germany. And then at 18, I was just like, oh, this lifestyle doesn't suit me anymore. Because what I used to do is, like, we did a lot of partying, especially in Europe. You're allowed to drink as you're like 14 or 16. So we went a little bonkers. And then eventually you just sit there and you're like, oh, this is kind of the day. So this is kind of getting the same repetition. So I just told my mom, like, hey, I just want to buy a flight and see where it goes from here. So I ended up just getting a flight to Canada. And then once I landed there, I'm like, oh, I think I want to go back to school. And I ended up going for law there. And then from there, we had to do like a lot of tests, such as like, how would you handcuff somebody, or how would you do a cell search, and all these things, which included us to have to do a lot more fitness, the gym. And then once you're in the gym, you're just automatically associated to like bodybuilders, which got me into competing. And then from competing, I'm like, wow, I'm getting really stiff. Got me into yoga. And then I'm like, oh, I want more explosive. Got me into gymnastics. It's just like an evolution of it all. Of going from partying to like the extreme other end, where I haven't even had alcohol in forever now.
Yeah, that's a really cool kind of journey. You know, it's like, oops, this is the one thing I don't like about this thing, so I'm gonna go on to it. Very neat. And then Emily, what about you?
It's really funny. It's a very similar story. Mine's a little bit juicier though, because I also love to party. As a kid, I grew up in Woodbury, Long Island. And I went away to college, and that was really fun, to the point that all I was focusing on was partying. And then I failed out, came home, partied some more because I clearly didn't have enough, landed myself in rehab. So that was great. I clearly I'm a very like 0 or 100 kind of girl. So I was giving 100 to partying. So, once I got to rehab, I realized I need to give 100 to being a better person. So, once I got out of rehab, I was like, I need to switch addictions, and my addiction became the gym. And that probably saved my life, because I know many people that didn't have an outlet to kind of go to, and it's easy to fall back into those habits. So, yeah, that's kind of how I got into the gym, and I fell in love with it. And then I wanted to help other people because I love people and giving back. So that's how I got into training, and that's kind of how I am where I am today.
I think we have a quorum here. I think we've all done the same thing recently. I think everyone's aware from my previous podcast that my health issues that have stopped me drinking too, and you haven't been drinking for ages as well for other reasons. So we have a quorum.
Yeah. There we go. Emily, throughout your journey, what's the best compliment you've ever received, and why?
This girl wrote her college essay on me, and that I think was like the biggest compliment. Wow. Because I went back to school. Where I grew up, I was adopted into a very like wealthy family, and I went to a very prestigious school, and they put a lot of pressure on you to like go to Ivy League. And so they didn't expect me to walk in there and give a speech, and I didn't tell them I was doing this. I was like, that school your parents are pressuring you to go to be a doctor or whatever. I was like, tell me to go fuck themselves. Like, don't do that. If you don't want to do that, don't. You're going to be miserable. Life's too short. Whatever you do, if you follow that and do what you love, like, you'll end up being just fine. And these kids' jaws were like on the floor, because I just was very honest. I was incredibly just honest. I was like, listen, like, I've been there. I've done it. Like, I have my friends that are in debt, not happy because they were just winning. They're trying to get their parents' approval and like wanted to live up to their expectations and keep up with the Joneses. But like, if you want to sell Pokemon cards and make money off of it, go do that. Like, go follow your heart. Because if I had listened to what everyone else was telling me to do, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I kind of just gave myself use myself as an example, being like, you don't have to do things to make others happy, because that's kind of the environment that I grew up in. And, grades is the most important thing in the world, and going to college is the most important thing in the world. And God forbid you don't finish school. Like, it was just, I was trying to let people know, like, you're going to be just fine no matter what you choose. It's going to be okay. Just have good intentions and follow what you love, and you're going to be okay. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like the message of, you can reach success in a million different ways. And it also depends on what that definition is, because it's not the same for everybody. And I think that's an important message. Iris, I'm interested to hear from you as well. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
Mine's more, I would say external, I guess. It was one of the ladies that took our course. It was during COVID when everything was shutting down, and you were told nobody was allowed near you, anything like that. And we still had approval from the government that we were allowed to do our courses until it's a no, like an absolute no. And we were one of the very few that were still allowed to do it in the premise of like, hey, this is the distance, all the windows stay open and stuff like that. She mentioned that like she was basically suicidal, and the course saved her because she wasn't allowed to be with anybody except with us. So it was a full 5 days, 8 hours a day at the time. Wow. And it was just like all love, all movement, but like clearly with all the restrictions involved, but it was still, you saw everybody every day. You can talk about whatever you're going through life. So when she said that, it just became even more than movement for me, because I'm like, it impacts so much more. Sure, you pay for a product, but 8 hours for 5 days is so much more than just the product at that point. When you're all coming in super sore, crying, you're heading home and you're not allowed to be with anybody. Yeah. So that was like the biggest one for me, and that will always stick, is like we potentially might have saved somebody from something that they didn't know they didn't want to do.
Yeah. So Iris, staying with you, in terms of when did you want to know that you wanted to pursue a career in fitness and movement, and was there a pivotal moment?
I think this was back in, I'm going to say 2014 or 2016, around my competing times. I was still working full time as like law admin, but then within that, I was already competing, and I kind of just took off. Like I was in magazines at the time. I was able to do posing coaching and everything like that, and I really loved it. And the income was at this point like almost the same, that I'm just like, I enjoy coming here, but not as much as here, and I could dedicate more time. So then I kind of dropped everything I was doing in this field and only went into fitness, which actually made me go to Texas, funny enough. I was in Houston for 6 weeks because at the time, I feel like everyone would know them. Alpha Land or Alpha Elite was just rising. So his second gym, that's where I went to for 6 weeks, and just had the time of my life. So like between sponsorships and clients and just being around the right people, I knew I couldn't go back. Because like even when I was at my job, they're like, oh, you're not allowed to smile so much. You're not allowed to be so kind. You have to assert yourself. There's like, you have to be more firm. And I'm like, that's just not me. So it was really hard to be like close your mouth, have a serve. I'm like that. I can't. I smile all the time. I love to laugh. I love to make people laugh. So I knew that direction, eventually I'll have to let go. So I'm like, why not leave it on a positive note and like continue here, where I do want to make people come from their struggles into their happiness and just accepting themselves. That's kind of how it levitated that way.
That's great. And Emily, what about you? So what got you into fitness and movement? Was there a pivotal moment for you?
Yes. I had just gotten sober and I was trying to get my life together, and I just didn't like myself at all. Like I didn't. Like there's a lot of things, obviously I had a lot of issues. And working out was the first thing that I actually had to like work. Like you have to actually put the work in to see the results. You can't cheat it. You know what I mean? Like you can't. So when I started actually genuinely working on myself, and I was like, this is nice, and I started progressively just kind of like trusting the process, and like every month I would feel like a little bit better about myself. And I remember loving that feeling and always being like, oh, like I don't have to feel like crap. Well, there's probably a bunch of other girls out there that feel this way, and I don't want them to feel this way. And that's kind of why I got into training, because I never wanted another girl to like feel the way that I did, like look at them. And guys, sorry, I never wanted anyone to like look at themselves in the mirror and like not like the way that they looked. I just find that to be like really sad. So yeah, I that's how I got into it, and I think that it was really a huge pivotal moment because it was the first time I started to like really love myself. So yeah, it was really awesome. I love, yeah.
I'm just going to dig a little deeper with you there, Emily, because that's quite fascinating for me. Is that, you're partying, you're having a great time, and come on, what was that exact? Can you remember the exact moment you went, I have to stop this? Was it just you just one day when you felt hungover? Was there literally a moment where you suddenly went, okay, I got to change this?
I mean, I guess because this is now public information, I like was arrested actually, like for having a lot of drugs in my car. And I'm just gonna say that. And I was court mandated to rehab. So it wasn't like necessarily a choice. But when I got there, I realized I was like, what the fuck am I doing? You know, what am I doing? Sorry, what am I doing with my life? Like I just sat around like looking at these people and they were like in their 50s, like just you can tell like has gone to like a chronic relapsers, and I'm just like looking around, I'm like, I do not want to be like these people. And I was sick of feeling like a loser. Like I saw all my friends that I graduated with, you know what I mean? Like they're at Harvard, like doing like crazy, you know, living their best lives. And I'm sitting in rehab with a bunch of like, you know, people that don't have the motivation to get their lives together and start whatever. My environment wasn't great. So, I just sat in there and I realized that I did want to change and I didn't want to disappoint my family anymore. And I didn't want to feel the way that I did. And I didn't want to end up like these people. So, that's kind of like when I had that moment. I was like, yeah, I'm done messing around. I'm ready to like start doing good. And you don't understand, like I did everything they said. Like my boyfriend makes fun of me to this day because like we'll go to the grocery store and I am a crazy person. Like I have to put the cart away. Like I no matter like I don't care how far away it is. Like I will walk all the way there and put the cart back into the like thing because I learned like if you don't do the like back, I'm a firm believer in karma. Like you do anything, like if you litter, like it will come back to you somehow. So I try really hard to like, you know, stay in the lines and like just, you know, do right by the world and right by the universe and put good energy out into the universe because I know that will come back because once I stopped acting like a shitbag, that's when good things started happening to me. Sorry for the language, but like that's just the best way for me to put it. Once I stopped being a jerk, good things started
Congratulations, Emily. I think you know one of the themes of this podcast is strength, and that shows a great sign of strength. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. So Emily, staying with you quickly, well, not quickly, but staying with you from your moment of change to where you are now, specifically the booty box. Talk us through that journey of how you got to the booty box. What is the booty box? Who should use it? What are the benefits?
So walk us through that. So exciting. So I am the founder of this gym called, one of the founding female trainers of this gym called Dog Pound. We started out in New York and then we moved to Los Angeles, and then I had a calling to move to Texas. So I moved to Texas, bought a house out here, and obviously I didn't want to open up a gym because I understood the overhead cost of that, and I already basically been through that, and I'm like, this is a headache. I'm just going to do this the cool way, build a great garage gym out of my home and, you know, have clients pull up. But it's a 3-car garage, which is a decent size for, you know, a garage gym, but it's not like, you know, a gym. So I needed to, on a budget, get the most amount of equipment in the smallest space possible. So I'm really into obviously like booty stuff and like leg exercises and like butt workouts, obviously. So I wanted to create something like multiple pieces of like leg workout, like the staple leg movements, basically all in one. So I wanted to create, I get like a lot of fake nails most of the time. And I would grab the bumper plates and break a nail trying to stack them on top of each other to create a platform in order to do like deficit movements. You know what I'm saying? As like stupid as that sounds, I was like, you know what? Like my friend, I just like thought of something. I was like, what if I just like built like a little box thing platform and like I won't have to drag these plates around anymore. So I called my friend and I was like, hey, I know you do woodworking and metal stuff. Can you just like make me this for my clients and for myself? Like had no intent of selling it. And he's like, yeah, sure. And I was like, wait. Can we add this like little like U bracket and put like, so we can do like Bulgarian split squats and hip thrusts off of it and stuff. He's like, yeah, that sounds cool. So he did that. So then he made it. And I started using it with clients, and clients were like, this is so cool. Like, this is great. Like, where do I get one? I'm like, I can't. And I realized that this is something that was really marketable. So I put it on Facebook Market and started selling it locally, and it was flying off. We couldn't keep up with it. So we met a manufacturer. Andy actually connected me with a manufacturer in Sweden who worked on a metal prototype, but we realized that the wood ones were the ones that were selling like crazy. So we decided to work with the wood ones for now. And then have you heard of Fringe Sport? Okay, no. So they're like, it's like a Rogue or a Titan. They're basically a fitness supplier, but they're a really big one actually out in Texas. They heard about Booty Box and they want to do a licensing and manufacturing agreement with us. So we actually signed the paperwork for that on Tuesday, which I'm really excited about because this has been like a 7-month deal. And then even cooler news, you guys know what F45 is? It's that like franchise circuit training gym. So they're testing them out in the headquarters currently to launch them globally. So it's going really well. And it's basically the second item that's made it this far in the testing process. And we've only heard good feedback so far. So I don't want to jinx it, but it's looking really good. And hopefully we place an order for 11,000 units. Fingers crossed. So that will be cool. But yeah, we're making big progress with that. So I'm really happy about that.
That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I want to make sure we dive into that further later. But Iris, before we move on, I know you mentioned you're not with Movement Flow anymore, but can you explain what Movement Flow is, movement arts, how you got into it, and kind of where you are today?
Yeah, so Movement Flow is just is a system that's combined of different disciplines and put into one system. So usually what happens is like there's circus, there's dance, there's flexibility, and there's strength training. And many times you see that clients go into one discipline and then they're like, "Ooh, I'm getting injuries or disbalances because I'm only doing this one thing." So we're like, what's the best idea to put it all together and then have no disbalances, but also fun? And also what I wanted to take away with Movement Flow was the disordered eating, which was very common in bodybuilding. And I'm like, how do we not focus on food? And this was just anytime you worked out, like I saw certain muscles finally grow, what I didn't. And in bodybuilding, not Movement Flow, just because of the set muscles that you have to activate when you're doing bodybuilding compared to when you're doing calisthenics. And then sometimes I just wonder, why are some calisthenics or gymnasts so crazy jacked and then we struggle so much here? So just diving deeper into it made me kind of shift from one to the other. I still love bodybuilding. I think everybody needs to go to the gym just to maintain that muscle, because without muscle, injury is bound to happen. But also with that muscle, you do need to support your ligaments, your mobility, your flexibility, everything like that for them to go cohesively together. So that's kind of how the birth happened of it all.
It's awesome.
So whether it's Movement Flow or it's your new project, Movement Arts, Iris, take us through the business side of that. So how can you get involved? Is there training for professionals? In fact, and then even take it further, because I know you run very successful retreats as well. So just take us through that whole business type, so our listeners can just find out how they could get involved.
Yeah, so the way it usually is, there's multiple or a few components within Movement Flow. There's the level 1. You have classes, workshops, or you just take the training. And then we have off retreats with Movement Flow, where you're just getting everything. Basically, you learn how to move. It's very floor specific. So I usually recommend having a soft floor or a slidey floor to be able to do Movement Floor. Because if you have a rough surface, it's really hard to do many of the movements, which is fine because that's mostly dancer style. With movement arts, it's honestly, you can do it anywhere. And that's kind of what I learned with Movement Flow. It's I want to be able to take the feedback from the students and create something that you can actually do anywhere. If we're saying that we can do it everywhere, why don't we make it accessible in concrete and water and wherever you are? Why can't I do it there? So when I was creating movement arts, it was I would literally go outside in the most yucky places, because I'm if I can do it here, that means I can do it anywhere that's comfortable. If I can do it in a small space, that means a big space is luxury. So that's kind of how that me getting away from one discipline to the other, it was just getting all the feedback from one company. And I'm okay, how can I make their experience be so much better and also make them consistent? Because a lot of the times we'd have students drop off, and that's the unfortunate side of business is they didn't have the space or they can't have access to a smooth floor, especially if you're living in Hong Kong, your unit is so tiny that you just don't stay consistent with the practice. And then in the gyms, if it's too busy, you're kicking somebody by accident. So that's kind of how it all segued it a bit away.
So Iris, just take it a bit deeper with you then. So take movement arts then. Do I need to have some sort of gymnastic skills to get involved? What does my initial skill level need to be?
To join? Nothing. Like honestly, just a good attitude, and then you learn everything in the program. So the way it's structured is like it's from beginner to advanced. You learn all the movements, but then if it's like say a bridge with no hands, you get a lot of support during the course, and then by the end of the course, you should be able to do it by yourself. If not, you're told what to use at home, like a chair or a ball, to be able to do it by yourself. So nothing is inaccessible. It's more about like, am I ready to learn and am I open-minded? If you're not open-minded, I'm usually like, oh, just give yourself some time and then come. But it's for beginners to if you're very skilled.
And come on, tell me these amazing places that I can come and do your retreats. Where do you do them?
Oh, so this year we have one in Baja California, and then we're going to France and Slovenia, and then Singapore.
Like, tu parles français?
Thinking. Say that again.
Tu parles français?
No, like, petit.
Un petit peu. Un petit peu. Okay.
Yeah. Now I mix the Spanish with the French. I'm like, ah.
That's good. As long as you know, it was one of the things I learned when I traveled. I used to travel a lot for business. Was I always tried to learn 20 words everywhere I went.
Oh, nice.
Please, thank you, hello, how are
That's
you?
cool.
All those types of things. Yeah. Just as it just an easier culture. I was lucky enough just to be out in Hawaii, and I was trying to learn a few of the different Hawaiian words. But boy, that's difficult.
Hard, yeah. Especially when you start learning a lot, you find like you're starting to mix all the languages.
Mix all the languages and stuff. So Emily, just flipping for you. So for those who are listening, who've got that product idea, that fitness product idea, which I bet there's a lot of people have, how did you start? How did you create your prototype, your funding, and what are your future plans? Tell people how you got the Booty Box going.
So I have this genius friend named Andy, and I immediately contacted him because I know he created a piece of fitness equipment, and I asked for some guidance. And I understand that's like not the norm for most people, and some people may not have someone that's already connected in that space. I like to learn from people that have already gone through it. You know what I mean? Because that is I would rather learn from their mistakes than make their mistakes, and when I could have easily been avoided, you know what I mean? So getting guidance from someone that's already kind of been through it, if you can, like, reach out to them. Even like, let's say I didn't know Andy, if like hypothetically didn't know Andy at all, I would have tried to find someone that had created something and reached out to them like, hey, I will pay you for a consultation, like, please just give me a little guidance. I think the most important thing you can do, like I said, is learn from someone that's already doing it. Because there's no, I feel like, real roadmap to be like, this is how you create a product and like launch it in the fitness industry, like maybe. But I didn't find that book. So I just kind of reached out to a bunch of friends, and I tapped into my network, and kind of just basically got as much insight as humanly possible. And a lot of people were like, hey, I'm willing to connect you with this person, I'm willing to connect you with this person. And we had a little savings for the first prototype, and but we ended up just like kind of waiting on it because we were so focused on the wood. So we literally just American products, like went into Home Depot or wherever he went and got his wood, and went into his garage and did it himself, like the nice getaway. Like, we didn't do anything fancy. Like, I'm a very like get your hands dirty kind of girl and figure it out yourself, and try to avoid spending as much money as possible, at least in the beginning. So I was like, let me play with this, and then once I figure this out, then we can kind of take it to the next level. So we basically had Kevin making them in his garage for a little while, and then we found a US manufacturer who couldn't keep up with it, and the quality just wasn't what we wanted. And then Fringe Sport, like, very quickly after, followed back up finally and was like, hey, like, let's move forward. I'm like, oh, thank you. So we met with them real quick, and we were very blessed that they are so into the idea and really believe in us and would love to move forward with a licensing and manufacturing agreement. So yeah, I guess that's learning from others' experiences is my my advice.
Yeah. So it sounds like, to summarize, don't be afraid to ask questions. Yeah. I mean, I think it's easier said than done, right? I think a lot of people are probably afraid to ask because they're afraid to be wrong.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the second piece of advice is don't be afraid to be wrong.
No, because you're going to fail
fast, fail cheaply.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't even tell you how many things that I've done wrong along this process that I could have avoided, but it's part of the experience. Like, if you don't love failing when starting a business, like, you're gonna give up way too quickly. Like, you have to be relentless. And if you're not relentless and just show up every day, even if like it's not doing what you want, then I just don't think you're made out for it. You just kind of you have to be relentless and push through even the hard days. Cause I'm sure, like you said, Iris said, there are times where people kind of like fall off, you know what I mean? And then that's like slow season, what we call for me, or what I call for myself. And you're like, crap. So you just got to grind. You just got to grind and try to learn from other people and not be afraid to fail.
It's really interesting. I mean, I was watching the Bill Maher show the other day, and they had Stuart Galloway on there, and he was just saying this whole thing about people follow your passions is just garbage.
It's crazy.
You need to get out there and do what you just said, grind. You've got to put the hard work in. You've got to be reliable. You've got to turn up every day. And then sure, you can become passionate about it after you've done the grind.
Yeah, totally.
That dream of just being, follow your passions, he just said, it's just not reality for most people.
Yeah.
As long as you're willing to put the work in, I think it's okay. But if you're just like sitting there manifesting, waiting for an opportunity to fall into your lap, like you're high, like you have no idea how many how many gyms I've DM'd being like, hey, like check out this product out. Hey, and reach out to a bunch of influencers. Hey, like I'll send you a free box if you post about it. Like so many people. I'm a psycho. Like I will write down a list of like 100 gyms and DM every single one of them that day until I get to the bottom of my list. And if I hear back from 3, I'm pumped. You know what I mean? It's just, and you can't get discouraged at that. You're like, great, I heard from 3. Let's go. Like, let's see where this can go. You have to just kind of keep that positivity because it's hard. It's hard, but you guys get.
I'm just gonna backpack on that one. It's funny that you say that because I had that conversation with my partner the other day. He was like, "It's so funny when you watch an interaction, somebody says no to you, you just move on." I'm like, "Yeah, because it was a no anyways.
Yep.
If I didn't have the interaction, so I might as well ask and then just move on to the next person because it's a no anyways. If I didn't ask, I would have been no. If they say no, at least I know not to try again and go somewhere else.
Yep.
And then you're like process of elimination of you're condensing it to the people that want to work with you instead of wasting your time being like super kind and humble. You're like, no, just cut to the chase. And like failing forward is the best thing you can do because then you have all the lessons. Like when I was with Move and Flow, I learned so much. I had to take so many classes and everything of like how to be an entrepreneur, how to do your thing. And when people are like, oh, you're doing your passion, I'm like, yeah, my passion is 9 to 5. It's like 6 a.m. till midnight, So I don't know about your 9 to 5. It's kind of comfortable. So don't complain about it. So it's been really fun to like fail forward. And then when you start a new project, you're like, okay, at least I'm not on ground zero. I've learned this much and I can go from 20%.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Iris, what has been your biggest challenge in growing Movement Flow? I know it's now Movement Arts, but let's talk about that journey a little bit. What was the biggest challenge and how did you overcome it?
I think it's the messaging because like, it's so easy to be like, okay, bodybuilding, you gain muscle. Super clear. Yoga, you gain mental stillness or flexibility. Like it's very clear. With Movement Flow, it's like you learn inversions, you learn how to be free flowing, you learn everything in one package. It's like, how do I get the message across? And I learned that just strong 3 visuals will get the message across. Inversions with a handstand, create balance. Like a nice strength building photo will create strength. And then one where somebody's just doing acrobatics will create fluidity and creativity. So it was like just being super clear instead of trying to explain the whole thing. It's like, just give them 5 words. And if they're pitched then, they're pitched then. If they're not, it's fine. Move on.
I like it. Simplicity and figuring it out quickly. Yeah. Emily, what about you? What's been the biggest hurdle with the booty box? Would you do anything differently?
This is gonna sound horrible. But trusting certain people and not getting things like written down and signed and making sure all my T's are crossed and my I's are dotted. I have such good intentions and such like they say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it type of girl. And so when like another business owner or someone else doesn't do that back after, understanding how important this is or how much money is on the line or whatever, they don't do it and just like, crap, I should have gotten this like written down in a document. You know what I mean? It's just at like how many NDAs I've had to like send out to people just because I've also heard horror stories of other people getting burnt of my friends. But I did have something kind of happen and I just learned that I can't be too trusting because that's definitely something that I give out way too easily, unfortunately. So I have to, unfortunately in business and when it comes to money, you have to get things, all the legal taken care of accordingly. and patents and everything like that.
Well, let's take that, Emily. So let's just flip that a little bit then. So, if money was no issue and Shark Tank came in and just said, "Here's all the money you need. We'll fund every order," or what might you do differently with your business?
What would I do? That's a really hard question. I don't believe anything. I wouldn't do anything different. I love the mistakes that I make. I love, like, because everything that I've done wrong, I've learned from. And it's gotten me stronger and, like, into a different perspective. Like, not to take things personally, or, like, if you send an influencer or something that you spend a lot of money on putting up front for, because this was made in the US originally. And, I sent, like, it's cost me, like, a good amount of money to make each one. And then on top of that, like, $60 just to send it to them. And, I would do that, and half of my, like, friends, like, didn't post about it. You know what I mean? So I think that, like I said, like, this, like I said, sounds horrible, but, like, not trusting certain people, but at the same time not taking it too personally when they don't do that, because it's not like they're doing it to screw you. Like, they just are in their own head, or in their own vibe. So
if I'm hearing you right, Emily, so a lot of people want to set up a business and they all feel like they need to go and get their investment round done, and then they get their Series A, and they're all about getting this investment. What you're saying is you're more about get the grind done, do it as affordably as you can, prove it out, and then kind of hope that the investor comes to you, as has happened.
I don't believe in putting too much money up front. Like, if I were to sit down and give someone advice, I would say tell someone to pre-order things and have, like, a pre-order instead. Don't put the money up front, because God forbid it doesn't go well, and that's all your eggs that's all the eggs you put in that basket. Like, yikes. So I would basically try to do it in a way where you don't have to put the money up front. That's something I'm actually pretty good at. Yeah, that's really what it is.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, great. And Iris, what about you? If money was no issue, would you do anything differently?
I don't think so, because I don't really have to put any money up front. It's like, I'll rent a studio, go pitch it, and then that's it. I think the only difference maybe I would do is being able to put more money into the teachers in regards to, like, merchandising, giving them more, like, material of learning. That would be the only avenue where I'm like, okay, how can I support them more? But work-wise for me, I don't think so at this moment.
That's great. That's great to hear. So, staying with you, Iris, then, so you're obviously passionate about your project. What's the favorite part of your day, or everything you're doing with movement arts and everything? What's your favorite part?
I think my favorite part is when I've been able to take fear away. Like, I have so many men and women after their, like, 40s, they're like, I can never do this. And then they do it literally within 10 to 15 minutes. And they're like, no way. I'm like, yeah, all it really takes is just somebody to analyze your body and then give you the baby steps to get there. And then when you realize that the baby steps are easy, all of a sudden you're doing a cartwheel or like a macaco or an acrobatic skill. All of a sudden you're like, what? I could do this all along. It's just about having, like Emily says, the right mentors for the right product will get you what you want. But if you're going, like, as much as I love Instagram and YouTube and all these tutorials, they're not able to spot you. They're not able, like, you can't get feedback by asking your monitor. So sometimes just having that person for a couple dollars will get you so much further than you trying to struggle and waste your time, which is way more expensive than just ask somebody. Mm-hmm. And on Instagram nowadays, everyone will give you an answer, most likely. Mm-hmm. And you have to pay. You're just like, oh, what am I doing wrong? Send a video, and all of a sudden you have an answer.
Because I'll be honest, I watch some of the stuff you do online, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could never do any of that. I'm kind of horrified. So what you're saying, though, is that come to my retreat. If I spent 20 minutes or half an hour with you live to live, so what you're giving advice here is that, sure, learn things online, but you can't still beat that live interaction, that coaching from a fitness professional. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, because sometimes, honestly, it's just as little as, like, rotate your hand a little more. As silly as this sounds, all of a sudden they have the skill. But then when they did it before, they're like, I'm in so much pain when I do this. I'm like, yeah, you're kind of going too much into your lateral, like over your scapula. You're bouncing too much, so it's causing you pain. You're having too much friction in your neck. This is the reason why. And then all of a sudden they're doing like 20. They're like, oh, I feel fine. So it's just, understanding where hands and feet go. Once you have that, you're good to go.
And Emily, what about you then? So it's obvious you're passionate about the Booty Box and what you do, but what's the favorite part of your work?
I feel like doing something different in this industry. I don't know too many women that have come out with a piece of equipment. From the research I've done, it's really just the girl that has done like the mirror, and that's like the real first female piece of equipment that I've seen. But it's not like really in commercial gyms or anything like that. But I've been trying to find like another woman in this space so I can talk to her, be like, "Yo, how did you do this? Like, this is." It just respect, because when you walk into a gym, I can almost guarantee that 100% of the stuff you're looking at, maybe besides like a Pilates ball, like has been created by a dude. You know what I mean? This other thing that was like a booty builder thing was also created by a man, but like it's just a lot of stuff has been created by the men in the gym, and I want now to be the first like real female to kind of like be like, nope, like this is a female space too, and like I want to make something that's, you know, different and be able to be in commercial gyms too, because there's room for me too. So I kind of, especially like a 5 foot little nugget like me, like I think that's cool that to be able to like have a piece of equipment that's like from a female in gyms. So because you know it's just not common.
You just helped me about what's the most exciting thing about what I do in the day is this. Just hearing that, and hopefully you're going to inspire other women to get out there and do the same thing. That excites me about the job that Laura and I do.
Cool.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I love that.
I mean, I think there's enough room for everybody. So
yep.
I love that.
Totally.
Moving from the business side of things into now fitness and the active side of it. Emily, do you have any advice for those interested getting into fitness and movement? What would you share with them if they're a little bit nervous of just taking that leap to getting into it?
I would say follow Iris's vibe. Do a little bit of everything. Seriously, don't stick if you don't stick to just bodybuilding, don't stick to just this, don't stick to just this. Like it's really important to just like how she said, you know, if you don't have muscle, like you can get hurt. If you don't have flexibility, you can also get hurt. If you don't have the mobility, you can also get hurt. So being able to be strong, mobile, like do handstands, a little bit of everything, like whatever kind of fuels your soul, like go do that. Don't stick to one thing if that's going to be like boring to you after 6 months, and you're going to get burnt out after that 6 months, or end up hating it because you're eating salmon and rice and asparagus for every single meal. You know what I mean? Do what feels good for you. If you want to go do swimming one day a week, go do that. If you want to do your bodybuilding thing in the gym one day, go do that. If you want to take an F45 class one day, go do that. If you want to do yoga one day, go do that. Cool. Just try to get a little bit of everything, because so many people just hyper fixate on one instead of trying to be overall balanced. That's what I would say.
Yeah. So build the foundation, do what you love, because ultimately that's sustainable and that's what's going to take you further. I like that. That's great advice. Totally. Iris, do you have anything that you would say to people that would be different?
I think after having worked in gyms as a personal trainer and group trainings, I know at the beginning I was very against group trainings, and that was because of form. And then over time, I think my conclusion is do 1 week if you can. If you want to get into it, do one session per week with a trainer to gain the knowledge that you need for your body of proper form, and then do group trainings. And the reason I say group trainings is community will always keep you accountable, and it will keep you in the game so much longer, not only in the gym, but also outside. Because like my group of friends don't necessarily party. Like we'll be like, hey, do you want to go do hand-to-hands, like stand on top of each other in the pool and hang out all day? Absolutely. So once you start like being in a community of movers, whatever you decide to do, if that's yoga, Pilates, doesn't matter, you will create those friendships that are lasting a lifetime. And that will make you healthy and fit for a lifetime. And then having that trainer at the beginning to understand how your body moves and how to do anything to begin with, you know you're not going to get hurt if you're going into a group class, because you're like, okay, this is what the teacher wants. This is how it works in me. Or this is my level right now. Maybe I need to regress, but still be inspired. So that's what I was thinking.
That's amazing.
Oh, I could give you a confession now to both of you. Probably don't know about me, and not sure how much Lauren even knows about this. But I started off my career as a physical education teacher, and I used to make extra money by teaching high-low group exercise classes.
Nice.
Go and do them, and this was back in the late 80s, early 90s. As you know, I'm very old. I used to do that. You really only did group X on the spot. You never, if you went left or right, it was a little strange. And then I was responsible for about 10 years for the launching of all the Les Mills programs.
That's
body
so
pump,
cool.
Body combat and all that stuff. So obviously I can agree with you on the group exercise stuff.
Yeah. Iris, would you say that that's the main way that you network, is through fitness and through things like that?
Yeah. I would say that's like 98% of all my friends are either in the circus or in fitness or acrobatics. It's, yeah, even when I go to New York, everyone's like, oh, let's go see these towers. I'm like, what about Circus House? There's like so much cool thing because there's always something to learn. It's so cool. Like even watching people now on the straps, the new skills that are coming out, watching acrobatics being implemented within acro now, like on top of people, the skill level has gotten so crazy that it's just fascinating to sit there. You could go to a show where you can just sit at like your gym and watch. Same thing, except thousands of people aren't cheering. It's just, yeah, it's very inspiring.
Yeah. And then would you also say that that's the way that you market movement arts and movement flow? Is it just by
Yeah, it's definitely
networking?
mostly referral or Instagram.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. That's really good to know.
Yeah.
Emily, a bit different question for you. Who would you consider to be your biggest competitor? Hearing earlier that not many women are in the space, I'm really interested to hear what you would say about that.
My biggest competitor, oh my god, I can tell you right now, Brett Contrast. He came out with like the booty, I don't know what it's called, the booty something. But it's basically just like a platform, like a hip thrust platform. Oops, sorry, I think that a hip thrust platform and like a little thing that you could like do hip thrusts off of or Bulgarian split squats, but it doesn't have that deficit part, and it's not like a box where you can do step ups. It doesn't have storage to it, like. And I just wanted to basically, like, I saw that and like that's cool, but I like the whole deficit stuff and especially banded movements. I did a video on Instagram with the banded kettlebell thing and got like over 4 million views or something like that. And I realized I'm like, oh, people like really dig this, and it got like a ridiculous amount of saves. Like people really dig this. So within the booty box, there's like little like things on the inside we can attach a band to and do like resisted kettlebell like deficit booty stuff. So I really like saw his thing and I was like, this is cool, but I want to basically add more pieces of equipment to this in one. And so this is more like a home gym thing. You see his stuff in some commercial gyms and such, which is cool. But like, I feel like what I have is just so good for someone that like lives in New York City, doesn't have much space, or has a small garage gym, or is a personal trainer that like can take that with them, throw it in the back of their truck and like take it with them to clients' houses and use that if they don't really have anything other than like a bench, you know? So, I just wanted to create something that was super versatile, and Brett obviously did a great job of that, but I'm just trying to level that up, you know?
So, Iris, if you were giving some of our audience a tip about what's a crucial trait someone would need in a role or doing, launching retreats or businesses, what's a crucial trait that you need?
I would say know your community. Know where they feel safe. Like a lot of the resistance, this is going to sound so silly, but also not. Many people actually from the States are not that comfortable coming to Mexico. Whatever the story is behind it, like I've had now when I was launching the new retreat, like I had at least 5 people that are like, oh, I'll come to the France one. And I'm like, okay, so like knowing your community and who is actually buying your product, tailor to them. Like, unless you want to go to Mexico and just have a good time, do that on your own time, but maybe don't make it a business thing. So I'm learning, the older I'm getting, is pleasure is not always business and business is not always pleasure. So even like when you talk about Brett, like I know my clients have gotten his programs in the past, and I saw them like, oh, cool that finally a female is going in, because many times, like even with ice baths or fasting, it is not for all women. Like I think a woman should tell what women should do because they feel your pain, they feel everything. Like a man will never understand my cycle. They will never understand the pain I go through. They will never understand the weakness I have during that week. They will never understand why I have weird cravings. Right. So like all these little things, it's nice when you're like telling a woman, you're like, I can't do it this week. And the guy's like, you got this. I'm like, I do not. I don't got this.
Don't do it this week. Don't do it.
Yeah,
I want a tissue chocolate and a love movie. That's literally all I want right now.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly.
So yeah, I would say the biggest thing is like know your audience and go from there.
That's just great. Wonderful. Yeah. So Emily, in terms of, what surprised you the most when you first got started?
How hard it was going to be. And how many people were going to try and steal my idea. I didn't realize that I put it on Facebook, within 2 weeks, I had 2 copycats trying to sell like bootleg booty boxes, but like without the metal piece, just the wood part. And I was like, for like $30 cheaper. And I was like, but I didn't even launch this yet. I was like, what is this? So, that was a little frustrating to me. What else? I don't know. That was really like it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You know, I mean, just picking up something you said earlier, Iris, when you're talking about there's just a lot of men, and you said it as well, Emily, in terms of product creation, is that there's a lot of men out there. In terms of, you know, woman to woman, you've got yourselves on this podcast here. Is there any burning question you think we'd like to have asked if you were listening to this podcast? Or actually, do either of you have a burning question for each other?
Oh, actually, I have a question for Iris. So, how did you? I know you have like people for retreats like all around the world. How did you spread your audience like that large? Like most of my audience is like New York and Los Angeles and like all US based. So like it's really impressive that you kind of have like people everywhere. Is it just from all the traveling you've done and all the connections that you've made through there?
I would say honestly, COVID.
Wow.
As
Okay.
much as it sounds silly, because COVID really made everything bloom because everyone started coming online.
Yeah.
And then because everyone started coming online, it was international. And then once the first retreat hit, it was just like everyone's coming because they're like, oh, we already know them. We've already connected with them. Like we had so many free classes during that time. Because I also was like, oh, if I didn't have a partner and my dog, I'd be all alone. That's the worst feeling in my mind would happen. So for us, it was like predominantly COVID, but also before that, when we did international, it was like we already knew somebody there and they would spread the word on the ground. So it's like knowing one person and then they can hire it out. In Taiwan, we have a company that just does like all the online marketing. So there it's a little bit easier because they do all the marketing. So it's like you say, once you have those connections, once you've been there, you get to know one person and that person is like, oh, but if you go to them, they can spread it. So it like happens after time. Unfortunately, it wasn't overnight. It was, like you say, a lot of hustle, a lot of conversations in the gym, them seeing what you do, and then boom, all of a sudden it gets easier, but also harder because you gain new tasks as you grow.
I like that. I like that a lot. It's really good.
And what about you, Iris? Is there anything you'd really like to ask Emily?
What is the biggest struggle you find with competitors?
Creating something that they don't offer that no one else can. Like being different from everyone else. And like I just haven't seen a deficit platform mixed with a Bulgarian split squat thing mixed with a hip thrust thing, and then we're gonna make a metal version of it which have like different attachments. So just coming up with something that isn't completely like gonna be a fad, you know what I mean? Some like bull crap, you know what I mean? Some like not legit thing. And basically just bridging a gap and just bridging a gap instead of creating something like or inventing something brand new. Just trying to find a gap to bridge and not overcomplicating it, because I think if you overcomplicate the piece of equipment, like I see like these like benches with like a million bands attached to it and like all this like other stuff, and like that's cool, but if you don't know what to do in the gym, you're not gonna know what to do with it. You know what I mean? So I think just having something where you're just taking the staple movements that like, you know, most people know and just putting that into like one little thing, I think simple sells. So being able to bridge a gap, having it simple and clear in the message, just like you said, and yeah, just being able to market. Like that's, you can have a great product, but if you can't market it or don't have connections, like it's harder to go somewhere, you know. So
I love that it's portable. Like the fact that you can take it to your clients. I think sometimes people can't leave their homes or for whatever. Like if you're a full-time mom and maybe you don't have the luxury of leaving, that you can go to their house with an item that will actually make them better. I love that. And especially for us, like glutes are so important. They like, for a woman, they balance you, they structure you. So I think that's really cool.
Totally. Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Well, both of you sound incredibly professional. Sound like you're up for doing the hard yards, etc. So starting with you, Emily. Lauren, I like to show kindness. Just tell people how can they purchase the booty box? Where can they find out about the booty box? How can they do it?
Well, right now we actually sold out, which is exciting but sad, but also exciting because it means we did well. Fringe Sport, like we said, we're signing a licensing deal with them, so they will be manufacturing it from now on. So you'll be able to buy it off of Fringe Sport's website probably in like 3 months. So it's really exciting. Yeah. Or you can go into an F45 class by Q1 2025 and probably use it in there. So that's also cool. Fingers crossed
So
for that.
you'll let us know when you're ready to launch again, and we can let our listeners know if it's time to purchase and stuff like that. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
And then Iris, for you, in terms of coming on your retreat, becoming a movement arts instructor, how can I learn more about that?
Honestly, I would just say if you reach out anytime on Instagram through Movement Arts or just go on our website, I'm literally glued to my devices. You know my response rates, really same day. So if you have any questions, like just go on movementarts.ca or the Instagram, I will respond at any point in time, or one of my teammates that are working together. Yeah.
And where is your next retreat?
We have another workshop now in Rochester, New York on May 18th. And then the next retreat will be June 1st to June 5th in Baja, California. We'll have like a ocean safari where we'll see whales and all the crazy stuff, as well as like waking up, doing movement with the sunrise and everything like that. So
I was lucky last week. I got to see some humpbacks in Hawaii. It was incredible.
I know. I saw your message. I'm like,
no, just incredible. I saw you were swimming with some too. So amazing.
Yeah, it was insane. But
well, both of you, thank you so much for your time today. As we wrap up, we always ask one final question. So our podcast themes, as we mentioned earlier, are strength, kindness, and perspective. You've shown a lot of strength with your persistence. We'll just leave it with that. Your perspectives are awesome, and they're a little bit different, which I really like that we have both of you here today. Kindness. Emily, is there someone that you would like to show kindness to, whether it be a mentor, someone you'd like to give a leg up to or shout out to?
I would like to give a shout out to my really good friend Julia. She also does retreats and she does sound baths, and she's really big in Los Angeles. Her Instagram is Thrive with Julia. She is just the most genuine soul. If you really like sound bath vibes, and if you're in LA, like, she's a great person to go see. She's also an incredible trainer. She trains Eva Longoria. She's top notch. So if you ever wanted to go see Julia, I highly recommend her. She is absolutely incredible, and I cannot say enough good things about her. She's one of my best friends, and has been my rock for a really long time. So I just want to give her a shout out for sure.
And then Iris, same question for you. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to, a mentor, someone you'd like to give a leg up to?
I'd probably say my family, my friends. Like, I don't think I would be here. They've had to get those long phone calls, like, am I failing? What do I do? Help me. So I'd say probably my friends, my family. Andy, like, he's been there from the beginning. Every time I just went, I'm like, sorry for waiting for me. He's like, it's fine. Like, just the really good connections I've had through my life. There's not a specific person, but everyone in accumulation dealing with me, I'm very, very grateful.
Just quickly before you sign off, don't forget to visit network.allwellco.com and join our professional network. You'll get to enjoy exclusive benefits from brands we love and have access to a community where learning and professional development are always at the forefront of everything we do.